I found a tiny stain on her skirt. And it ended up revealing a betrayal so dangerous, it nearly cost both of us our lives. I never imagined my life would spiral into chaos because of a few specks on fabric. My wife, Rachel, had just gotten back from a 3-day business trip to Chicago. She works in HR consulting, the kind of job that sounds boring unless you're the one getting laid off. She'd been doing these trips every couple of months for the past year. Nothing out of the ordinary. That night, she came home late, around 11 p.m. Said her flight got delayed, and she was exhausted. Gave me a quick kiss, showered, and went straight to bed. I didn't think much of it, she looked worn down, and honestly, we hadn't been super close lately anyway. The next morning, I went to throw some of her dirty clothes in the wash. She dumped her suitcase out near the closet, and I was picking through the usual stuff, leggings, blouse, makeup bag, when I noticed her black pencil skirt bunched up oddly, inside out. I grabbed it, intending to straighten it out and toss it in. That's when I saw it. A small, crusted white stain near the hem. Not huge, but it stood out against the dark fabric. I stared at it for a solid minute, trying to tell myself it was lotion or salad dressing or anything else. But it was right where you wouldn't expect either of those things to be. Still, I didn't jump to conclusions. At least, not right away. I held it up to the light. Touched it. Rubbed it between my fingers. I don't know what I expected, but something inside me started to twist. I don't want to sound like some paranoid psycho, but I knew it wasn't mine. And that's what haunted me. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I kept my face straight through breakfast. She was scrolling her phone, sipping coffee, acting like everything was perfectly normal. I told her I'd drop her skirt at the dry cleaners and left early for work. Only, I didn't go to work. I went to a lab. I won't say how I found the place. Let's just say, there are services out there that test things for DNA without asking too many questions. I paid extra for a rush analysis and dropped off the skirt, still folded neatly in a plastic bag. The receptionist gave me a strange look, but didn't say a word. For 3 days, I barely slept. I kept running through all the ways this could be nothing. Some perv on the plane maybe? A prank? A freak accident? But deep down, I already knew. Something was wrong with Rachel. Not just this trip. For months, she'd been colder. More distant. Always tired. Always busy. On the 3rd day, the lab called. The voice on the other end told me, calmly, that the substance was confirmed to be seminal fluid. Not mine. Someone else's DNA. And worse, they said the sample flagged positive for something serious. A rare, fast-developing STD. I asked them to repeat it twice. I nearly dropped my phone. It felt like I'd been sucker-punched. I was shaking. I got in my car and just drove. I didn't even know where I was going. I just needed to get away from everything. My head was spinning. My wife, my Rachel, had slept with someone else. Unprotected. And now she might be dying. And didn't even know it. I pulled over at some gas station and sat in the lot for an hour. I stared at the little stain in my mind like it was a gun pointed at both of us. Part of me wanted to go home and scream. Another part wanted to vanish, just drive until I hit water. But I didn't do either. I went home and waited. That night, Rachel came in from yoga, all smiles and sweat, tossed her mat by the door, and kissed me on the cheek. I asked her how class was. She said good. Her eyes didn't flinch. And that's when I decided I couldn't tell her yet. Not until I was sure. Not until I saw everything. Because if she was cheating, and this guy gave her something fatal, maybe she didn't even know. But then again, maybe she did. And that's when I thought, what if I'm not the only one she's been lying to? What if I'm just the next in line? The hardest part wasn't what I found, it was pretending I hadn't found it. For the next 2 days, I played house like everything was normal. I kissed her goodbye, told her I loved her, cooked dinner, even laughed at her jokes. Meanwhile, I was unraveling on the inside. Every word she spoke, every look she gave me, I analyzed like a detective at a crime scene. I needed answers. Real ones. Not just a stain, not just test results, I needed to know the whole story. So I started digging. First thing I did was install a keylogger on her laptop. I know how that sounds. But she never logged out of anything, and I knew she kept her work and personal stuff on the same machine. It only took 10 minutes to set it up while she was showering. Second thing, I checked her phone while she was asleep. We'd always known each other's pins. She never changed hers. I don't know if that meant she trusted me or just didn't think I'd ever look. But either way, I was in. There were no obvious red flags in her messages. No late-night texts, no flirty emojis, nothing that screamed affair. But then I checked the recently deleted folder. That's where I found them. A bunch of messages between her and someone named Zed. At first, I assumed it was just a nickname, maybe a girlfriend. But then I saw one that made my heart nearly stop. You still taste like wine and sin. I haven't stopped thinking about you since Chicago. She replied with a red heart. And a wink. I scrolled back, fingers trembling, reading more. Their messages were short, fast, like they were used to sneaking them in. Some were flirty. Others were graphic. One mentioned a hotel downtown. Another said, same room as last time. My chest tightened. They'd met more than once. But what hit hardest was one message that simply said, "You're clean, right?" And his answer? "Totally. Don't worry about it." That liar. That liar. He wasn't clean. He gave her something. Something she could die from. And she never even questioned it. At that point I felt something in me snap. Not with rage. Not yet. But with realization. I couldn't protect her from this. Not anymore. She'd made her choices, and now, the consequences were falling like dominoes. I saved the entire thread. Screenshots. Email backups. Everything. Then came the third thing I did, I checked her cloud. She didn't log out of anything. And her photo backups were still synced. I scrolled through hundreds of boring shots, receipts, lunch pics, random dog selfies, until I hit a batch labeled TripCHI_1. Inside were pictures from her business trip. Most were harmless. Group dinners. Lobbies. A selfie with a glass of wine. But then I found them. Not photos. Videos. There were 6. No names, just timestamps. I clicked the first one with my stomach already churning. It opened with her giggling. The camera was shaky, pointed at her face. Then it flipped, and I saw him. Zed, a tall guy with a beard, smirking like he'd won the lottery. He grabbed her by the waist and kissed her. Then the video went black. The others were worse. She filmed herself in the mirror in nothing but a towel. Whispered things into the lens. Called him by name. Said things I can't repeat. One ended with her saying, "Don't forget what you're missing when I'm gone." Gone. Back to me. That's when everything froze. All that talk in my head about telling her, about saving her life, about being the bigger person. Gone. She knew. She knew she was cheating. She knew she was lying. She chose to risk everything for this guy. She knew what she was doing. And now, I knew what I was going to do too. I wasn't going to confront her. I was going to destroy her. I didn't sleep that night. My body was lying in bed next to her, but my mind was racing through every worst-case scenario imaginable. I kept seeing her face in that video, smiling, laughing, whispering things that made my stomach turn. All while I was back home texting her goodnight and hoping she was safe. Safe. That word used to mean something. Now it felt like a joke. By sunrise, I had a plan. Step 1, gather proof. Not just the videos or texts, everything. I made backups of her phone, cloud storage, laptop, even screenshots from our shared Google Calendar. I wanted a digital timeline of everything she'd done. Every lie. Every cover-up. Every moment she'd chosen him over me. Step 2, get the medical records. This part was tricky. I couldn't ask her to get tested, not without raising suspicion. But I still had access to the lab that tested the stain. I called the same technician and asked, very carefully, if there was any way to trace the infection based on the sample. He said yes. Apparently, it was a rare strain, only about a dozen known cases in the state. That gave me an idea. I asked if they had connections to STD surveillance reports. He gave me a name. A clinic. I made an appointment under a fake name and walked in like I was just another worried guy who got careless. They ran blood work. Swabs. Everything. While I waited in the small clinic room, I stared at the posters on the wall. Protect your partner, get tested regularly, STD symptoms aren't always visible. I wondered if she'd ever seen one of those and felt anything. 10 minutes later, the nurse came in. Negative. Completely clean. Which meant only one thing, she hadn't infected me yet. That realization was like a second betrayal. Not just that she'd been unfaithful, but that she'd come home, kissed me, shared a bed with me while carrying something that could end both our lives, and never once warned me. Step 3, confront the other man. I didn't want to. Honestly, I hated the thought of giving him the time of day. But I needed to look him in the eye. I needed to see what kind of man risks someone else's life for a few nights in a hotel. The text gave me his full name, Zachary L. Morales. LinkedIn told me he worked for a real estate firm downtown. I drove there during my lunch hour and waited in the parking lot. I didn't even know what I'd say. I didn't even know if he'd show up. But sure enough, he came out around 12:15, sunglasses on, laughing with two co-workers. He looked exactly like he did in the videos. Confident. Arrogant. Like the kind of guy who thinks he's invincible. I walked up and said his name. He looked at me, confused. Yeah? I told him I was Rachel's husband. His face dropped like I'd pulled a gun on him. He glanced at his co-workers, then back at me. Look, man, I didn't know she was married. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was such an obvious lie. She told you, I said. You just didn't care. He didn't deny it. Just stood there, frozen. I took out my phone. Opened one of the videos. Hit play. His eyes widened when he saw her face. Her voice. The towel. Then I paused it and looked him in the eye. You gave her something, I said. Something fatal. And she's been walking around thinking everything's fine. But you and I both know it's not. He opened his mouth, but I didn't let him speak. I don't care what excuses you have. But if I find out you infected anyone else, I will go public. I have everything. Screenshots. Video. Lab results. I'm not bluffing. He looked sick. Good. I turned around and walked away before he could say another word. I didn't need his apology. I didn't need a confession. I just wanted him to feel it. The fear. The guilt. The panic. Because that's what she made me feel. And she had no idea what was coming next. The sickest part of this whole mess? She was still acting like everything was fine. Rachel made pancakes that Saturday morning. Wore my college hoodie. Danced around the kitchen to Fleetwood Mac like we were newlyweds. She even poured me coffee with that same warm smile I used to believe in. And I sat there across the table, wondering how someone could fake it that well. I stared at her hands. Those same hands had sent dirty messages to another man. Had held her phone steady while she recorded videos meant only for him. And now she was flipping pancakes like nothing happened. I said nothing. Just watched. Every laugh. Every sip. Every casual moment felt like watching a movie I already knew the ending to. And I couldn't wait for the credits to roll. I'd been quiet all week, and she finally noticed. You okay? She asked. Yeah, I lied. Just tired. She came over, wrapped her arms around me from behind, and kissed my cheek. That was the last time I let her touch me. Later that afternoon, I packed a go bag. Told her I was taking a short trip to help my buddy move out of state. That I'd be gone overnight, maybe 2. She didn't question it. Just told me to drive safe and text when I got there. She kissed me again. I said goodbye. But not to help a friend. I was heading to my cousin's place. He's the only person I trust with stuff like this. His name's Matt. Former military, now runs a security systems business. I called ahead, said I needed his help, and to keep it quiet. He didn't ask questions. Just told me to come over. I got there around 4 p.m., and we sat on his patio with beers in hand while I spilled everything. The stain. The test. The videos. The guy. All of it. Matt listened without interrupting. His expression didn't change once. But when I finished, he set down his beer and said, "So what's the plan?" That's why I went to him. No judgment. Just action. I want her to see everything, I said. But I don't want a screaming match. I don't want drama. I want her caught. I want her to sit in it. Feel it. No, I knew everything. He nodded slowly. You want exposure? Exactly. He helped me set up a plan. First, we copied the videos and screenshots to a private drive. Then, we drafted an anonymous email. No signature. No details. Just a subject line that read, "You should see what your wife's been doing." Inside, a link to the folder. A message. She wasn't careful. He wasn't clean. You need to get tested. We scheduled it to send in exactly 48 hours. But that wasn't all. Matt had another idea. Set up a meeting, he said. Act normal. Ask her to meet for lunch. Public place. Neutral ground. Then give her a gift bag with a flash drive inside. Tell her it's a slideshow. Wedding photos. A surprise. Something sweet. I raised an eyebrow. And then you walk away. Let her open it on her own. Let her see it with no warning. No yelling. No confrontation. Just truth, hitting her square in the face. I liked it. We planned for Sunday. That night, I stayed at Matt's guest room, phone buzzing non-stop with sweet little texts from Rachel. Miss you already, red heart hash. Call me when you get there, babe. I love you. I didn't respond. I just watched the time tick down, waiting for Sunday. Because on Sunday, I would finally stop pretending. And she'd finally see the grave she dug with her own hands. Sunday morning felt like I was walking into a war zone with flowers in my hand. I texted Rachel late the night before, told her I'd be back in town for a few hours and wanted to grab lunch. Her response came instantly. I'd love that, missed you. I stared at the message for a long time. There wasn't a single pixel of guilt in her words. Not a hint of remorse. She was still deep in her act, smiling, cooking pancakes, kissing me like she wasn't secretly poisoning the both of us. I replied with a time and place, noon, her favorite cafe. Public, quiet, and just enough background noise for what I had in mind. Matt handed me the flash drive that morning, packed in a nice little gift bag with tissue paper and everything. He even stuck a bow on top. You sure about this? He asked. I've never been more sure. He nodded. Then go ruin her day. I parked a block away and walked. The weather was nice, sun peeking through the clouds like even the sky was waiting to see what would happen next. When I got there, Rachel was already at the table, looking up from her phone, eyes lighting up like I was her favorite person on earth. I sat down across from her, smiling just enough to keep things steady. You look good, she said, reaching for my hand. I let her touch me one last time. Thanks, I replied. I got you something. I placed the bag on the table. She raised her brows, delighted and confused. What's this for? Just something I thought you'd like. A little walk down memory lane. She pulled the bag closer, curious, lifting the tissue slowly like it was a birthday present. When she saw the flash drive, she tilted her head. What is it? A video, I said. Of us. Of everything. She smiled. You're getting all romantic on me, huh? Something like that. She reached across the table again, but this time I pulled back. I've got to run, I said. Didn't want to miss the chance to see you. She frowned, confused. You're not staying? Nope, I said, standing. Watch it. Alone. I leaned in, kissed her cheek, and walked away without looking back. I could feel her eyes on me as I left the cafe, still smiling, still thinking everything was normal. That smile wouldn't last. Back at Matt's, we pulled up the tracking link. The flash drive had a microchip embedded inside it, just enough to ping when it was plugged in. A security measure Matt used for sensitive corporate clients. I hadn't even asked for it, he just did it. At 12:42 p.m., we got the ping. She'd opened it. I sat in front of the screen, heart hammering, imagining her face as she watched herself kiss another man. As she read the texts. As she realized I knew everything. That she'd been living a lie, and I'd been quietly watching the whole thing unfold like a slow-motion car crash. Then came the calls. First, her number. I declined it. Then a text. We need to talk. Please. This isn't what you think. Another call. Declined. Can we please meet? Just talk to me. I can explain. No, Rachel. You can't explain this. Because there's no explanation for smiling in someone's face while you carry around a death sentence from another man. No excuse for putting someone's life at risk just to keep a secret. No sorry that fixes that. At 1:11 p.m., I got a new message. I'm going to the hospital. I just got tested. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. She was finally doing what she should have done months ago. Matt turned to me and asked, now what? I didn't answer right away. Because honestly, I didn't know. But I knew what I wouldn't do. I wouldn't lie to myself anymore. I wouldn't protect someone who clearly never protected me. I wouldn't sit back and let my life be hijacked by a woman who treated betrayal like an accident. This wasn't an accident. This was war. And Rachel just lost the first battle. The weird thing about betrayal is how quiet it gets after the explosion. Once the flash drive was opened and the truth spilled all over her carefully polished world, Rachel stopped pretending. The text changed from sweet to panicked. Then to defensive. Then to desperate. Why are you doing this to me? You don't understand what it was like. You were never around, you were always working. And then, like clockwork. It didn't mean anything. It was just a mistake. The classic. Funny how 6 months of planned meetings, secret hotels, and unprotected sex ends up being just a mistake once the lights are turned on. I ignored all of it. She called me 12 times in one afternoon. Left voicemails crying, begging. Some angry, some pitiful. One message, she even said, "We can fix this. We're not broken unless you let us be." I wanted to scream into the phone, "You broke it." Not me. But I didn't. Instead, I sent her one message. I know about the STD. I know who gave it to you. I got tested. I'm clean. You need to tell the truth before someone else gets hurt. That shut her up. At least for a few hours. Around 7 p.m., I got a new number calling. I didn't recognize it. I let it go to voicemail. It was him. Zach. The guy she cheated with. "Look man, I don't want trouble," he said. I didn't know she was married. If I had, I swear, "Look, I'm getting treatment, all right? Don't drag my name into this, please. I've got a fiancé too." That part nearly made me laugh out loud. A fiancé? Of course. I saved the voicemail and forwarded it to a new folder. Just in case. Later that night, I started making calls of my own. Friends. Family. People who'd be at our anniversary dinner next week. I didn't go into full detail, I just told them the relationship was over, and I wouldn't be explaining why. Not yet. Everyone was stunned. Some asked questions. Others offered support. A few clearly already suspected something was wrong. But one person in particular didn't act surprised at all, Rachel's sister. Her voice was calm, almost cold. She just said, "I figured something like this would happen eventually." I asked her what she meant. "She's always been good at hiding things," she said. "I'm sorry, man. I really am. But you're not the first person she's hurt." Those words stuck with me all night. I guess deep down, I always thought Rachel's worst mistake would be the cheating. But now I was realizing something darker. This wasn't just one bad decision. This was who she was. The next morning, I got an email from Rachel. No subject. Just a long, rambling message. She said she tested positive. That the nurse gave her a wake-up call. That she couldn't believe what she'd done, and she didn't recognize herself anymore. Then came the line that made me nearly throw my phone. "This doesn't have to be the end of us." The level of denial was breathtaking. I replied with 2 sentences. "You gambled with my life. That's the end of us." I blocked her number. Changed the locks on the house. Started working with a lawyer to separate everything we shared. And then, just when I thought it was over, I got another message. Not from Rachel. Not from Zach. From someone I'd never heard of. A woman. She said she was Zach's fiancée. And she'd just seen everything. Her name was Alyssa. She found my email through one of Zach's old shared documents. Said she was looking for proof after weeks of suspecting something was off. Then she saw the flash drive link Zach had tried to delete from their shared Google Drive. Too late. By the time she wrote to me, she'd already opened it. Read the texts. Watch the videos. Every second of Rachel's voice, every moan, every lie. Alyssa didn't ask questions. She didn't need to. She just wrote. "Thank you. You confirmed everything I was too scared to believe." I stared at her message, feeling a weird mix of guilt and relief. Guilt because this whole thing had blown a hole through her life too. Relief because I wasn't the only one anymore. I wrote her back. Told her I didn't do this to hurt her, but I was done protecting people who hurt others. I told her about the test results, the voicemails, even the STD. She responded with 3 words. "He's moving out." The next few days were eerily quiet. Rachel didn't try to reach out again. No calls. No texts. No sobbing voicemails about second chances or the life we built. Maybe the reality had finally hit her. Or maybe she was just too busy trying to stop her world from completely collapsing. I heard from Alyssa once more. She told me she confronted Zach in front of his parents. Made him listen to her read the messages out loud. Said his mom cried. His dad walked out. Zach tried to say it was just sex. Alyssa told him, "You gambled with both our lives for a fantasy." Then she packed his stuff, dumped it outside, and told him to get tested. That was the last I heard from her. But it wasn't the last of the fallout. See, Rachel and I had a mutual friend, Tyler. We'd known him for years, gone on double dates, hosted game nights. He was the kind of guy who always gave relationship advice like he was running a TED Talk. He called me out of nowhere. Dude, he said, I just saw Rachel. Okay. She was at the bar. Drunk. Talking loud. Saying you ruined her life. I stayed quiet. She told everyone you hacked her laptop. That you sent some revenge porn to her co-workers. I laughed bitterly. There's no revenge porn if the person in the video made it themselves. He paused. Is it true? All of it. Another pause. Then he just said, she's spiraling. Not my problem. He told me she got into a screaming match with a girl at the bar. Said something about men always choosing someone else over her. Threw a glass. Got kicked out. I didn't feel sorry for her. I probably should have. But all I could think was, this is who she really is when no one's watching. And now the whole world was watching. Later that night, I checked my email again. New message. Rachel. I almost didn't open it. But curiosity won. It was short. You got what you wanted. You burned everything down. I hope it was worth it. I read it twice. Then deleted it. Because I didn't burn anything down. She did. I just made sure she couldn't hide from the smoke anymore. The strangest part was how fast life started moving after everything exploded. People talk about heartbreak like it slows you down, makes you sit in bed for weeks, scrolling your phone, crying into a hoodie. But for me, it was the opposite. I was moving faster than ever. Focused. Sharp. Like my entire system had been rebooted. I filed to separate our bank accounts. Froze the joint credit card. Met with a lawyer to start the formal process of dividing everything. The house? Mine. She'd only put in 20%. The lawyer said if she wanted it, she could take me to court. She didn't. I think she knew she'd lose. She still lived in the guest room for another week. Said she needed time to figure out where to go. I let her stay, but only because I had cameras installed and nothing left to say. We didn't speak. Didn't eat together. Didn't even look at each other. It was like living with a ghost of someone I used to know. One night, I came home late and found her sitting on the back porch. Crying. Wrapped in a blanket she used to keep in her car. I didn't ask questions. Just walked past her, into the house. But then she said, I really loved you, you know. I stopped. I don't know why. Maybe some part of me needed to hear it, even if it was a lie. She stood up, wiped her eyes. You were the only person who ever really saw me. No, I said. I saw the version you wanted me to see. She didn't deny it. Then she said something that stuck with me. I didn't think it would matter. That one mistake wouldn't undo everything. I turned around and looked her straight in the eye. It wasn't one mistake. It was hundreds of them. You just finally ran out of places to hide. She didn't cry after that. Just walked back to her room. 3 days later, she was gone. Left a note that said, I'll send someone for my stuff. I boxed everything and left it in the garage. She never came. Eventually, I donated most of it. Couldn't stand the sight of it. Her perfume. Her shoes. Even her old college sweatshirt I used to borrow when we stayed in on weekends, it all felt like garbage now. Fabric soaked in lies. I thought that would be the end. But then, a week later, my lawyer got a call. Rachel had filed a counterclaim. She wanted financial compensation. Claimed I'd damaged her career by exposing private photos. Said I'd ruined her chances of getting hired again. The nerve. She slept with a coworker. Brought home an STD, lied for months. And now I was the one being accused of sabotage? I forwarded everything, messages, audio, timestamps, the flash drive chain of custody, to my lawyer. He laughed. She doesn't have a leg to stand on. But still. The fact that she tried? That told me everything I needed to know. She wasn't sorry. She was just cornered. She didn't miss me, she missed control. The house. The life. The safety net. And now that it was gone, she wanted someone to blame. She thought she could take me down with her. But she forgot, I hadn't just built a case. I'd built a wall. Around my peace. Around my future. Around me. And I was done letting her anywhere near it. The court date never came. Rachel's lawyer must have seen the mountain of evidence I had, photos, videos, lab reports, even the voicemail from her affair partner, and told her the truth. She didn't stand a chance. A week after her counterclaim, I got a call from my attorney. He sounded amused. She dropped everything, he said. No settlement. No further contact. She just walked away. Good. I wanted this done. The next few weeks were quiet. Weirdly quiet. No texts. No fake apologies. No sudden appearances at my office or late-night phone calls. It was like she vanished completely. I still saw her name now and then, usually in shared circles. A mutual friend would mention she moved back in with her parents. Another said she'd started therapy. One guy said she was trying to figure out who she is now. Honestly, I didn't care. Let her reinvent herself in someone else's story. I was finally rewriting mine. I changed my number. Cancelled our streaming accounts. Switched the locks, sold the mattress, and even painted the bedroom. It wasn't just a fresh coat, it was a reset. A clean slate. I started sleeping again. Real sleep. The kind where your brain isn't sprinting through old conversations or decoding text messages at 2 a.m. I stopped checking my phone like it was a bomb. Stopped watching my back like someone was still holding a knife. And slowly, things felt normal again. Not the old normal. A better one. I started cooking again. Reading. I got back into running, and even joined a local gym. Matt, my cousin, the guy who helped me expose everything, kept me grounded. We'd go out, hit a dive bar, shoot pool, talk about anything but her. Until one night, we did. He asked me, "Do you ever miss her?" I didn't answer right away. "I miss who I thought she was," I finally said. "But not her." He nodded. That makes sense. It did. Because what I'd loved was a version of her I'd invented. The loyal wife. The future mother of our kids. The one who made pancakes on Sundays and laughed at my bad jokes. But that person never existed. Not really. She was a mask. One she wore so well that even I believed it. But underneath? There was rot. Selfishness. Lies. And I'd finally seen it for what it was. What helped the most, weirdly, were the strangers. People I didn't know from Reddit, or old friends I hadn't spoken to in years who heard what happened and reached out just to say they'd been there too. Everyone had their own version of betrayal. Their own Rachel. It made me realize I wasn't alone. Not even close. One day, I got a package in the mail. No return address. Inside was a cheap manila folder. No note. Just the flash drive. The same one I'd given her at lunch. The one that held everything, the videos, the messages, the proof. It was wiped clean. Nothing left on it. I tossed it in the trash without hesitation. I didn't need it anymore. The truth had already done its job. She had to live with it now. Not me. I used to think closure meant getting an apology. A handwritten letter. A teary confession. A moment of clarity where the person who hurt you finally saw what they did. But now I know better. Closure isn't about hearing "I'm sorry." It's about knowing you survived without it. It's been 6 months since the truth came crashing down. Since the night I handed her that flash drive across a cafe table and walked away from everything I thought I wanted. And in those 6 months, I've learned more about myself than I did in 6 years of that relationship. I've learned that silence can be louder than any scream. That love without honesty is just performance. That peace isn't given, it's chosen. Rachel never came back. No surprise visits. No midnight breakdowns. No redemption arc. Just silence. And honestly, that was the best ending I could have asked for. Because if she had shown up again, if she'd cried or begged or tried to talk, I might have gotten pulled back in. And the man I was before? He would have listened. But not anymore. I've changed in ways I can't even fully explain. I walk different. Speak different. There's a stillness in me now. A confidence that wasn't there before. I don't chase explanations anymore. I don't rewind conversations in my head, trying to figure out where I missed the red flags. I see them clearly now. All of them. Like how she always kept her phone face down. How she never let me pick her up from the airport. How she avoided the question when I asked if she was happy. The clues were there. I just didn't want to see them. I do now. People still ask me if I'll ever date again. I say yes. But it'll be different this time. I'm not looking for fireworks or movie magic love. I'm looking for consistency, Quiet loyalty. Someone whose heart doesn't need hiding. Someone who understands that love isn't always loud, but it's honest. I've also started helping others. Online, mostly. Forums. Message boards. Reddit. Sharing my story with people who feel like their world is ending. Because when you're in it, when the truth is still fresh and your hands are shaking and your chest is full of knives, you feel completely alone. But you're not. And if you're reading this, you're not either. You will survive this. You will stand back up. You will walk away from the wreckage and build something stronger. You'll sleep again. Smile again. Laugh without guilt or fear. You'll find yourself in the silence. That's what I did. I don't need revenge. I don't need answers. I don't need her to hurt the way she hurt me. Because the truth is enough. And the truth is this. She lost a man who would have given her the world. I lost someone who never deserved it. And I'm finally okay with that.